Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking about Rise Up Animal Road, Episode 3, Runaway Girl X Attacker. Before we begin, though, I would like to give a big shout out to my boy at DigimonFan4Life for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Rise Up video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Now then, with that said, we got 3 things that I would like to talk about in this week's episode. I want to talk about the pet shop, I want to talk about the half dragon, and I want to talk about the brand new tag team champions that we get to see in this week's episode. But before we start anything, we gotta start, of course, with the pet shop. Now, their home base is genuinely, at least on the outside, it's very lovely. I actually was like, dang, they got a pretty sweet place. They got a pretty sweet pad. I am impressed. I was genuinely kind of surprised. And then I saw the inside and was like, now I'm less surprised because the place is kind of a mess. But that is to be expected from Kenzo, although I'm sure Shigure could probably keep a much cleaner place if there weren't so many freaking animals running around. But they're not even running around, they're all in cages, mind you. But not horrible, they're not being treated horribly, like Kenzo is going out of his way to take care of these things, but they have to be in crates and then probably let out in the backyard to kind of get some exercise, yada yada. He's taking good care of them is what I'm trying to say, but they're taking up so much space in this man's home, and then the other space that they do have, he's using it to cook food so that they can eat. So all of a sudden they don't really have a whole ton of space in the house, and they don't really have any money since the pet shop just opened, so it's not like they can hire out somebody to either build a new part of the house or new help to actually help them out around the pet shop. So they're already starting at a loss, which is not a total surprise, but again, it's played up pretty much for laughs. Although it is serious, they don't have money, which they are going to need to fix pretty soon. But I did think that seeing how hectic the place was, it was both really funny, and it actually kind of reminded me of an old job I used to have. For anybody who doesn't know, I used to work with dogs and cats for about 2 years. I worked at a kennel, essentially. So I worked at this place where we would do boarding for dogs and cats. And so it was our job to, if, like, say you went away on a business trip and you needed somebody to watch your dog, you would leave them with us. So we would have them in a kennel, and then we'd make sure that they got walks, got a lot of exercise, got a lot of playtime, had food, regular meals all the time, took care of these doggos. And we had a lot of doggos and a lot of cats. And it can get very, very messy, very, very fast. So seeing the crates and how Kenzo had to prepare 16 different meals for all the different animals, it genuinely reminded me of my time working in this dog kennel, and it was just, I don't know. We didn't call it the kennel. You can tell that I'm hesitating because we actually call it the pet hotel. Very goofy name, but that's pretty much what it felt like. It was just these dogs who would come hang out with us for the day. Sometimes it was just like a daycare thing too. Like dogs would get dropped off with us for the day while their parents went to work, and then the parents came back from work and picked up their doggo. Like it was a dog, like it was like a doggy daycare type thing, and it was really fun. But yeah, Kenzo reminded me of that, and seeing Kenzo prepare all the food, I was like, that reminds me so much of having to prepare 16 different kinds of dog food, and it was. It's pretty messy, so I understand why the pet shop kind of looks like a tornado hit it. And can I point out, by the way, that Kenzo is very clearly Parent of the Year. Can we just go ahead and give him the award of Best Parent of the Year, Best Parent 2019? Because my man went above and beyond to make sure that his animals are taken good care of. He's actually he's taking good care of them. He's giving them proper sized kennels. He's giving them solid meals. He's making sure that you just know he's making sure that they go out and get proper exercise. He's working on the barn so that he can expand it, working on the backyard. Him and the ant guy, who is still here, I love ant guy, are working on the pet shop to make it a little bit more friendly so that they can get some exercise, get some training in, make sure that they're well trained so that when they end up getting sold off, that they're not just wild beasts, that they're actually trained animals that can be sold in the pet shop. Kenzo is going above and beyond to be a good animal dad, and he's doing a good job, and I'm proud of the animal dad. And I mean, listen, I am proud of him. That doesn't change. But man, Kenzo, the furry thing, my boy, because yeah, let's talk about this. So the pet shop is technically not really meant to be a shop. It's, from what we gather, a home that they just kind of repurposed to be their shop, but also their home. That's why I said home base at the beginning. It is technically their home. It's their home plus their shop. That happens a lot. And so to see the neighborhood, you're like, okay, so maybe we'll get to know the neighbors. And you do, and one of them is some kind of animal hybrid human thing. And Kenzo goes insane, like you think he would. And he's just like, cause she's like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood. You must be the new neighbor, right? And he's like, yes, ma'am. Why, yes, I am. And like holds her hand a little too close. And I'm like, ooh, Kenzo. Ooh, boy. Oh, boy. Why you gotta do this to me? Because every time that I'm like, you know what? I changed my mind. Kenzo is a top-tier husbando. He's gotta go and pull the furry card out on me and like, listen, man. I ain't shaming you if you are a furry. It's just that ain't my thing. So I was like, I'm a little bit like, I don't know. I still want to put him on the husbando status. I can accept that he's a furry. It's not for me, but at least I understand why he's doing what, I mean, I don't understand. But like, I can get used to it, is what I'm trying to say. And hey, in fairness, the animal girl seems sweet. She seems like a genuinely nice person, so I don't know. Maybe her and Kenzo are gonna have a happy life. I don't know how you do that, but I don't know. What is the show making me say? What is happening? Let's just move on to the next point. Let's just go ahead and move on to the next point, that being the half dragon. Now, we know her now as Hanako, but at the beginning, her name is, and I wrote it down, Linda Bulea. That is a name. And Linda, because yes, I'm gonna have to shorten that, aka Hanako, is the freaking sweetest, even though she's also the hungriest. She is quite the dragon, quite the dargan. See, I had kind of assumed that I was wrong yesterday. Last week, or actually not even last week, the Rise Up video actually came out a couple days ago. Whoops. But I was pretty sure I was wrong in my last video when I said that she was a demon. I felt like that was wrong. I was correct in assuming that she was a dragon because, surprise, she's a dragon. She's a half dragon, to be fair. And I genuinely thought she was like really sweet and like funny. She's a refreshing type of character, and I appreciate that she doesn't fall in love with Kenzo, because I was like, please don't make the lolly fall in love with the big burly man. That just feels gross and weird. And they don't. Thank you for that. But she still becomes part of the team, which I appreciate, because I actually like this kid's personality. I think she's really funny. I think she bounces off Kenzo really well. And I can already tell her and Shigure are going to have some kind of like sisterly bond over time. I think she's going to continue to be kind of freaked out by her, since apparently Hanako is from the Fafnir family, if I'm remembering that right. I didn't write that down, so hopefully I'm right. But she's part of a family who serves the Demon King. Apparently there are 4 families who serve the Demon King, who we haven't heard from since the first episode. We like the man was summoned to fight this guy, and we haven't heard nothing about him since. So I was like, oh yeah, the Demon King. I forgot that was a thing. Mainly because that name is really generic, and that's probably not the main point of the show anyways, who cares? But I was like, oh yeah, the Demon King. It was a nice reminder that, yeah, that character exists, even though we haven't met them yet. So I was like, oh yeah. Okay, yeah, totally forgot about that. Right on, sweet. So you know that her and Shigure are going to have this sort of tense relationship, because Shigure is going to want nothing to do with Hanako, because she's like, I don't know. But Hanako did say that she would work for free as long as she has a place to lay her head and have food on her plate. So of course, right away Shigure is like, you are hired. So I'm hoping that they have sort of a fun relationship, more of a sisterly bond by the end of the show. Maybe not, I have no idea. But speaking of sisterly bond, we also meet Carmilla, who I have to assume, again, is a situation where, listen, it's a wrestling show meets an isekai show. And Carmilla sounds a heck of a lot like Carmella. Now, I don't know if that's a straight shout out, because I don't know when the source material came out, and I don't know if Carmella was wrestling at that time. And Carmella happens to be a very underrated WWE superstar, so I'm gonna go ahead and pretend like this is a reference, even though it's probably not. But Carmella needs some love, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that Carmilla is named after Carmella, even though it's probably not true. Have I mentioned the fact that I love that Rise Up allows me to talk about WWE and other wrestling stuff here on the channel when I normally wouldn't, because all I talk about is seasonal anime? Because I do. I like it a lot. Speaking of wrestling, let's go ahead and move on on to the third and final point of this week's video, the new Tag Team Champions. We finally get the return of Animal Mask. I feel like we haven't seen Kenzo don the mask in what feels like forever, but it's really only been an episode. But that first episode was so iconic with Animal Mask. Like, that is the man. So going all of episode 2 and more than half of episode 3 without seeing Kenzo don the mask, I was starting to get a little bit, I was getting a little bit sad. I was wondering when we were gonna see my man don the mask yet again, but happily, he does. And that was a pleasant surprise. We finally get to see the return of Animal Mask, and as it serves as a symbol of this man's resolve, and even says, like, well, hey, when I put on this mask, I am a different person. I go from Kenzo to the legendary wrestler Animal Mask, who I'm assuming is a babyface. If you don't know what a babyface means, it just means like a super good guy. And so, yeah, it was a pleasant surprise seeing the return of Animal Mask, who, of course, the townsfolk keep saying is a pervert. Like, oh, there's the pervert. What a guy. And in fairness, I mean, if you don't know what a wrestler is and you just saw the outfits many of the wrestlers wear, like on a street, like not even in a ring, just on a random street, like, yeah, you'd be forgiven for thinking that dude's a pervert. Yeah, that's fair. But my boy and Linda escape into the night and they try to run away from the townsfolk, so of course they need a disguise. So my boy gives Linda a mask, saying, well, they're looking for a guy in a mask, but they might not be looking for 2 people in a mask. Flawless logic, I know. But it finally gives us the new tag team champions, Hanako the Destroyer and Maskofinski, who is definitely not Animal Mask. But I kind of love that, because to me, and again, we're going to get into some wrestling stuff here, I loved that because occasionally wrestlers will like flip the script and change up their gimmick, and it's like, oh no, I'm not so-and-so anymore, I'm a totally different guy. Like way back when The Undertaker decided, you know what, I don't feel like being the supernatural Undertaker anymore. I don't want to be the dead man anymore. From now on, I'm gonna be this dude the Undertaker, who drives around in a motorcycle. Not the same guy, different guy, same person actually, but different. Kind of. I feel like this was a subtle jab at the whole changing gimmicks thing, while also just being a funny scene of him being like, no, they're looking for Animal Mask, but they're not looking for Maskofinski. This episode was just a ton of fun. We didn't get as much like crazy fight animation as we have in the last 2 episodes, but we did get a fun little intergender wrestling match between Animal Mask and Carmilla in a sort of test of strength type thing. It was fun. It was just a fun episode. The show continues to just be a fun time. I genuinely get really just this big dumb grin on my face every time I watch this show. It's just been a blast so far. With that said though, everybody, I'm gonna happily put this episode into the B tier. It's again, just a fun time. I just really like this show. On that note, everybody, that just about wraps everything up. But before we go, as always, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier. Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and hey, if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then by all means go ahead and check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get for as little as $1 a month, and get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. But on that note, everybody, that's going to be a video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't going to tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.